All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So, as you may be aware, we rolled out a new upgrade to Nebula earlier this month. So this is our regularly scheduled post-update webinar where we go through what some of those changes are, some of those new features are, show you some changes to the GUI to give you an idea of what has changed, what has improved, what you need to go to a different tab to be able to find now, etc. So before we get to that, we're going to go ahead and we'll start with just a very quick 2 or 3 slides here, just talking about what Nebula is, in case this is your first time looking at a Nebula product. And then we will hit the biggest changes first. And then we'll start going into the slower, more boring, more technical oriented type stuff. So that way you don't have to stick around too long if you're not interested in the detail and you're only interested in those big changes. So we'll start here with the summary, just as a reminder for what Nebula is. Nebula is our cloud managed networking solution. We have several different lines of access points, switches, and gateways that can be managed with the free Nebula Cloud. The Nebula Cloud has no limitations as far as the number of devices, sites, or users that can be using it. And it's designed to simplify network deployment, make it so you can much more quickly deploy your customers' networks out there, make it easier for you to manage them remotely and keep an eye on what's going on. So with Nebula, all you do is you scan a QR code for the device. That QR code can be found on the outside of the box or on the belly label of the product. You simply scan it, assign it to your customer, assign it to the specific site it's going to be deployed at, and that's really all you need to do. As long as your network, at least at the initial setup, has internet connection and DHCP, there's nothing else that you need to configure on the device itself. Simply, take the box to the site, pull it out, plug it in, and it will automatically register with the cloud once it has found it, put itself into cloud mode, and take it from there. So Nebula has been designed to make it really easy for you to see what's going on, make it simple and easy for you to manage multiple customers, multiple sites under those customers, and quickly switch between them when it comes to management. So that's it for the Nebula summary. Now let's start talking about some of the changes. So one of the changes that's come along, and you won't see this in most of our press release because this is a US only enhancement to Nebula, is we now work with infinite Wi-Fi. So I don't have a detailed slide on their offering at the moment, but they are a third party that primary focus is on public hotspots, guest networks, and specifically helping people to monetize those networks. So you can provide free, guest access to a Wi-Fi network at some location, and they will help you monetize that through their back-end system that's able to serve up unique ads and stuff like that to individual users. So it works with most of our Wi-Fi 6 APs. Basically, I believe it's anything 100 series and up, and it will also work with our WAC 500, WAC 500H. So their website's there, infinitewifi.com. You can visit that if you'd like to learn more. Hopefully here in the future, I'll have a little bit more detailed presentation on what they offer that I can work into my normal monthly Nebula presentations. So the big new feature here with this new release is called Connect and Protect. So what is Connect and Protect? It is a security service in Nebula for our access points. So the idea here is to help make it easy for you to provide public guest access. However you are doing it, whether you're a third-party system, doing it yourself, whether you're monetizing it or not. But the idea here is to help provide protection to those wireless users. So one of the issues we run into a lot, yes, let's do back here, is that when you're doing a lot of these small business deployments, you don't have access to their gateway. They've hired you to put in some access points, to configure a guest network, whatever it happens to be, but they've got a router that was provided by their ISP and they don't want to touch it, or they don't know who's got the admin password. So it's not easy for you to enable UTM services at the gateway level, either by enabling them on their existing gateway or removing their gateway and replacing it with something new. But you still have users that see the benefit of wanting some of that extra protection, especially if they're providing public access to their Wi-Fi network. And so that's where Connect and Protect comes in. If you can't put in your UTM security services at the gateway level, you can now provide something similar on the access point level to wireless users on the network. So Connect and Protect is made up of a couple different parts here. The first one is IP reputation filter. This is basically going to act as anti-spam, anti-phishing, blocking malicious sites, providing some level of type of content filtering. And instead of doing it on a deep packet inspection basis, it does it based on the IP address that your traffic is trying to communicate with. So it works, it's fairly lightweight. It doesn't put a heavy burden on your network or on your access points as far as the security goes. But it's, not quite as good as a true, deep packet type offering from a gateway-based security. But if you can't use those gateway-based security, this is a way for you to do it. We also have what's called Connect and Protect Plus, and that gives you application visibility and optimization. It basically allows you to generate reports so you can see what individual applications are using up your bandwidth, and it allows you to implement bandwidth controls at the application level. So you can look at it and say, hey, I want to block, for instance, YouTube, or I want to speed limit YouTube because I don't want a bunch of people completely overwhelming the network. So you could go in there and do that, those types of things. So when it comes to these new features here, the Connect and Protect license is available on the NWA 1123 ACV3, the WAC 500, and the WAC 500H. Our other APs offer the Connect and Protect Plus service. So again, that's the IP reputation filter, plus the ability to have application visibility and application bandwidth controls. And those are available on our Wi-Fi 6 APs starting at the NWA 110 and up. It is not available on like the NWA 50, that Soho Nebula AP. So here's what it looks like now in Nebula. You simply go to access point and you've now got the option to choose security service. So you can see up there, you can enable whether or not you want the application-based controls. And there is a handy model list there that you can click on so you can see which models are compatible. And then same thing down below with the IP reputation filter. You can toggle on and off whether you want the logs to record what gets blocked by the CNP service, or you can leave that off. You have the ability to define what the messages that someone sees should a website be blocked that they go to. You can redirect to an external URL that you've put up and designed for your customer that's maybe friendlier looking than the default text on a white page here. We also have the ability to add a notification page. So when users connect to the public network, they will see a warning letting them know that you are providing these services. Whether that's to reassure them or whether you have some privacy concerns and you just want to let them know. I should say here that when it comes to these IP rules, we will show you, if you enable it in the logs, what has been blocked, but we don't show you the individual user. So we can show you application level information. We do not show you user information for privacy reasons, since this is largely going to be used, we envision this largely being used on public guest networks. So when it comes to these services here, unlike our regular, Nebula Control Center licenses, where every device, if you want to use our ProPack license, every device has to have a license. With CNP, that is not the case. With CNP, you can assign the licenses to individual APs, and those features will only be available on those APs. And if you have a network that's mixed between higher end and lower end access points, so some support CNP plus, some support CNP, you can mix and match. It's just whichever device, will have whichever features are compatible with that device. So, it's really nice if maybe you've got a storefront where you want to provide access to your customers, but you've also got a warehouse and offices where you aren't providing public access and you're only really focused on, I want to provide, this level of security to the guest network. You can do that by just putting the licenses on those APs out in the retail store and leave it off your other APs in the warehouse or offices. So once you have the features enabled here, here's a view you can see. This is your dashboard now. We now have some widgets you can add to your dashboard, which will show you, what sites have been blocked by the IP reputation filter. And then if you are using the CMP Plus service, then you can see here, we can do a traffic breakdown by the type of application. So, there's a number of different applications we can see. So in this example, you can see there's Netflix, there's YouTube, there's also sort of your generic video site on here. So MPEG transport, meaning that you can tell if there's streaming video of some sort, but it's not one of the individual applications or sites that we have in our database. Like maybe some third-party streaming sites of questionable legality. You can see also here, Google, Facebook, Cloudflare, things like that can all be seen in the report. And you can also drill down a little bit deeper here. So you can go in here and take a look at your wireless traffic, and we can see it based on category of site. So rather than individual applications, we group them together by the type of application they are. And then, of course, you can always drill down into one of those categories and see the breakdown of the individual application. So the connect and protect licenses, when you go into the license management screen, you will now see them there as one of the options of types of licenses you can easily filter to. And our license calculator tool has added the connect and protect plus license in there. So for those of you out there that are existing Nebula customers or in the process of setting up a Nebula network, we do have currently a free trial available for you. It is a 30-day free trial of the Connect and Protect services. Anytime you log into Nebula right now, you will see this pop up letting you know that this is available for you. If you want to take advantage of it, you simply go into the organization-wide and then license and inventory management. And that is where the license will be. Simply find a compatible device and it will have the option to enable the CMP service for you. So that's it for Connect and Protect. Next, we'll talk about mobile routers. So if you go into the Nebula interface, you will see there is now a mobile router tab here on the left, in addition to access point switches and gateways. So we've gotten some questions on that. And then, of course, the way Google works is that, sometimes announcements for other regions, you get taken there instead of to the US-based page for information on stuff, and you end up stumbling across mobile routers. So let's talk about it. With this new P13 release, there has been the ability now to manage specific Zyxel 5G routers with the Nebula Control Center. Unfortunately, there are no 5G routers that we have that are compatible and can be used in the United States. This is primarily a EU-based solution. In the EU, it is much simpler to bring a third-party device to a 5G network. They are pretty open. It is pretty much just a case of pop a SIM in and it works. And then also in the EU, it's very, very common for people to use a 5G or LTE mobile connection as the primary WAN to the house. And while we do have that here in the United States, it is nowhere near as prevalent as it is in EU. And again, in the EU, they're very open for you bringing your own device. Where here in the United States, if they are offering those services, very often they are going to lock you into specific approved hardware. And then on top of all of that, it costs a ridiculous amount of money to get products certified to be used 5G in the United States versus Europe, where it's really easy. So for all of those reasons, there is currently no plans for any 5G mobile routers to come to the United States or Canada. Unfortunately, but again, if you stumble across our global site by mistake or our British English site, you will see these 5G routers. You will see things talking about that, but it is not available here in the United States, unfortunately. There are plans for us to have a 4G router available in the second half of the year. So we may have a 4G device, but no 5G devices anytime in the near or even foreseeable future. Okay, so let's get back to some more positive enhancements here. And again, as we go through, guys, if you have questions, feel free to use the question and answer box to send them in. I will do my best to answer them. So MSP enhancements. So for those of you that are already familiar with Nebula, we have a type of license called an MSP license. This license is a license that you can associate to a specific admin account that unlocks additional features for that user across all of the sites they have access to. So we've made some more enhancements to that MSP license, adding additional features to the license. So one of the new things here is that you can now transfer the MSP licenses from one user account to another user account through the Nebula interface. Before this, you would have had to open a ticket with our tech support, and it takes a couple days. Now you can do it automatically, essentially. And the idea behind this is, businesses come and go, customers come and go. So if you're transferring a customer to a new VAR or new MSP to take care of them, it's now very easy to transfer that license over. Same thing, because this license is locked to a individual admin account. Maybe your main admin guy leaves the company, and rather than continue to use his login, you want to use a new, non-that person login, so you can easily transfer the license over. So you can see here, it's pretty easy. You simply go under users here, you go to my devices and services, and on the action pull down menu here, there is a transfer license option. It'll pull up your licenses that are currently associated with that account and allow you to choose which ones you want to transfer over. We have added a change log to the MSP settings. So Nebula ProPack offers you a audit log. So anytime you change a configuration on a switch or gateway, it logs that change into the logs there. So you can always go back and find when things were changed and who changed them. So we've now added that type of functionality to changes that are made in the MSP menu. So you can go through and keep an eye on, what changes have made, such as changing your teams and things like that. So another new feature here in the MSP menu, if you are under the monitoring tab at the MSP portal, where you've got a list of all of your customers, you now have the ability to hover your mouse over an individual customer's name, and it will create a pop-up on the screen automatically, which shows you what's going on with all of that customer's sites. So just a little bit easier way to get a quick view of what's going on individual sites for a customer without having to click through and then wait for that page to load. This will just pop up automatically when you hover now. And then just going through here, we now have the ability here to switch between an organization tab and a sites tab. So you can just view all of your customers, and then you can go over, once you've selected a customer, there will be a sites tab, and it will then show you the full detail there as well. So in addition to the pop-up, you can find this information through this tab. And we've added some ability here. So one of the benefits of the MSP license is it allows you to create teams. So anytime you add a new customer, you don't have to go through and add each individual admin user. You can simply group your different admins into teams and just apply a team to them. So we've now added the ability here that when you are configuring a new organization through the MSP tab, you now are given the option to choose which teams you want to assign to that organization. Whereas prior to this, you would create the organization, then you would have to go over to the organization, pull up the the users tab or the admins page there, and then select the teams from it. So it just makes it a little bit simpler as part of the creation process of a new customer in Nebula. We now also give you the ability here that when you are cloning an existing site, you now have the ability, as you clone that site, to also transfer the existing devices automatically to this new organization. So if you're maybe reorganizing how you've got your customer and their site set up, this is an easy way. So when you're creating the new clones, the hardware is automatically transferred over for you. You don't have to do it separately. And then you can see here, this is just showing that same thing here when we are doing a cross-org site clone. You can see the checkbox there. Whether you want to move the devices over to the new org, and whether you want them to keep the management WAN interface that they already have configured. So when you transfer a device in this type of scenario, the device will reboot. It'll reapply its cloud settings. And then if you've checked it, it will keep the WAN and management interface settings. And then it will connect to the cloud and download the settings for that new site that it's on. So we've made some changes here to our logging, especially when it comes to SecuReporter. So SecuReporter is a tool that we have primarily on the gateway side of things that generates a lot of detailed security reports above and beyond what's available in Nebula. So we've made some changes to it. So now you no longer need to have a security pack license if you're trying to use SecuReporter just for gateway traffic logs. So again, this is something that's probably more Euro-centered, because in Europe, if you are providing internet service, you must track all traffic that goes through your gateway for security and criminal purposes. So in the past, you would have needed a security pack license and unlocked all of the SecuReporter features. So now, if you want that gateway traffic logs and only those gateway traffic logs, you do not need a dedicated security pack license. It now just will work with any site that is set to using Nebula Pro. So this is just showing here, when it comes to syslogs, we have, as part of the free version of Nebula, you can use a syslog server to record AP logs, switch logs, security logs, and security appliance traffic logs to your own setup syslog server instead of having to rely just on Nebula. So now we've got that ability with a Pro Pack or the security pack to be able to have gateway traffic information outputted to the syslog server. And if you have a Pro Pack, you can do the AP traffic logs. So we'll move on from those now to our enhancements for our gateway products. So we've made it easier for you to be able to convert an existing USG device on your customer's network to Nebula managed mode without needing to go on site and physically access the device itself. We've also, so you can see here, we've made some changes here. So when it comes to setting up the WAN, we've now added PPOE with static IP, which wasn't a feature that was available before, and the ability to use CHAP/PAP, which wasn't available before. Before you had to choose one or the other. We have now added also on the WAN side here, the ability to change the MTU settings. So this is showing here, again, the same thing where we have added some new features. This is when you are converting a device from local mode to Nebula mode using the wizard. You can see here, we've added the MTU settings. We've added the ability to do a static IP, which wasn't available previously before when it came to the WAN interface. And if you are using PPPoE, you see again, we've added that CHAP/PAP option instead of just one or the other. And this is showing here when it comes to your WAN setting, again, the changes in this thing. So again, same basic settings, different modes that you will come across them. And so it'll look a little bit different depending on which mode you are accessing, whether you're using the Nebula Wizard or whether you are simply going in using the network tools to test the WAN. We've made some enhancements also to the Active Directory server. We now support MS-CHAP v2. So when you are setting up a client in Windows to be able to connect to the Active Directory, you can now use MS-CHAP v2. We have set up the ability to do automatic domain zone forwarding. And then when doing Active Directory server authentication for IPsec VPN clients, you now have the ability here to use IKE v2. And we've added the ability here to use user group-based policies. So you can now do that's something that has, I believe, always been available in standalone mode. It has now been added to Nebula, and that'll work with Windows Active Directory, LDAP, or Radius for doing your user authentication. It does not currently work with Nebula's built-in cloud authentication server, but it does work with these three, probably the most common ways of doing this. So this is just showing here the authentication methods. So you can use these changes of applying rules based on user group. When users are logging in using a captive portal, when they are logging in using IPsec VPN client, or when they are using the built-in L2TP client in most mobile devices. So again, this is just showing here to verify that you've set the group rules up policies upright and you've correctly applied them. You can use the log to go in and verify that rules are getting applied in the log here. And so what you're looking for keyword is SF_deny, filter to that, and then look for entries there. If you see entries there, it is working. So that's it for the gateways. We'll now go through our access point enhancements. So this is just showing here, it's a common problem we run into is, hey, you know, I've got these devices, I've added them to Nebula, but they aren't coming up in Nebula. What's gone wrong? So now when you access the GUI that's built into an access point, it's designed to make it a little bit easier for you to tell why your device is not connecting to the Nebula Cloud. Is it an internet problem? It can't get on the internet. Is it on the internet, but it is unable to contact the Nebula servers, or is it able to do all of that, but for some reason it isn't possible for it to register to the cloud? So it sees Nebula, but for some reason it can't register. So it's a little tool here to make it just that much easier when you're troubleshooting those rare occasions when you have an issue getting a device to connect to Nebula. We've also added the ability here to do traffic shaping by VLAN interface. So what this is referring to here is, you know, the traditional way we would handle VLANs for individual users for doing stuff is, you'd have an SSID for your admin team, an SSID for your sales team, and an SSID for the warehouse staff, and you would VLAN those out and you'd be able to provide some rate limit settings. The problem with that is for each SSID that you are running on an AP, the more time is spent sending out beacon packets and responses. So you end up wasting some of your available airtime. So now what we've got is we can use the dynamic VLAN functionality that's part of Nebula. So you can have one SSID freeing up the airtime, but with dynamic VLANs now we can do individual rate limits based on the VLAN tag assigned this way, rather than previously where we would do the bandwidth limitations on a per SSID basis. So it's just showing you here, you can go in and set it up. You can have a maximum of 10 VLANs that can be assigned to a policy, and you can have up to 5 different policies in Nebula. So on our WAC 500H, this is our most affordable wall plate AP designed for hospitality. It has a built-in access point and it has pass-through Ethernet ports. We have now added the ability to use it for secure tunnel on the LAN ports. So previously, if you were trying to use secure tunnel mode, it would only work on a specific SSID. We now have the ability to do the same thing over specific ports in the physical ports in the bottom of the unit. We have now also added the ability to do NAT on the individual ports. So before, again, you could use NAT in the device on an SSID. So a specific SSID would have its own NAT to keep it on a different IP range for privacy reasons. You can now do the same thing with the physical Ethernet ports in the bottom of the device. And we've made some changes to the wireless health report, which is a Pro Pack feature in our Nebula access points. So when it comes to doing the auto optimization, basically our auto optimization can make some changes to what's going on the wireless LAN network based on what it is seeing from a performance standpoint. It uses some sort of artificial intelligence or machine learning to see what's going on and make changes. We've now added the ability to show or to limit how aggressive the auto optimization is. So you can go through and change whether you want it to be high, standard, or low. where before there was no option. It was just one setting for how it behaved. So if you've turned it on and you're noticing some things you don't like, you can dial it back. We've also made some changes to Smart Mesh. So Smart Mesh is the Nebula mesh system where access points can connect to other access points and use them as their connection to the network. So if you don't have a physical connection or something has happened to sever the physical connection of an AP, you can do a mesh instead. So that has been there for a while. So we've enhanced it a little bit by allowing you to go in on a per AP basis and decide whether or not how that device is going to basically function. So for instance, you can say, hey, I don't want this AP to be used as a downlink for another AP. So you can disable that functionality. And then you can go through and specifically define which specific device you want it to create a wireless link to, rather than allowing it to just automatically create its own mesh with whatever it happens to see. So we've also now made some changes to our hotspot features in our access points. So when you're using a username and password with the voucher system to provide guest access, so this is something that would be like in a hotel or a cafe where you're giving users a username and password to log in. And it gives them a certain amount of time to be on the network. Basically, before we had the ability to say only one device can use this login, or an unlimited number of devices can use that login. So now we've got the ability to go in there and set a range of devices from 1 to 10 to how many can log in. So why would you want that? So one of the common things we run into, particularly in hospitality, is you've got a family checks into a hotel room, they've got multiple devices. So you want them to be able to share that one username password combination to get onto the network, rather than each device having to have its own unique one. But you also don't want people sharing it with everybody in the world. So now you have the ability to say, hey, you check into our guest room here, you can have 5 devices logged in at a time using these credentials, for example. Before, when creating these vouchers, each voucher had a maximum duration of 72 hours. We now have the ability to set voucher duration for up to a year. So for those of you providing more long-term services or providing discounts, if you're selling access to the public network, you now have the ability, much more flexibility with how long those vouchers are good for. And then again, we've now added the ability to specify a specific date of which vouchers are going to expire. So before, you would create a voucher and you would just basically have a countdown. You would say this is good for an hour, and it would last for basically forever until the user first logged in, and then it would start counting down. Now you can go create vouchers and say these voucher is good through January 31st. Regardless of how much of the time available you've used, you will not be able to use this voucher after that date. So that's it, guys. Those are all of our updates. I know this isn't the most exciting webinar in the world, but hopefully you found some of this useful for yourself or your team to understanding what has changed in Nebula. Our webinars are recorded, and most of them are posted to our YouTube page. So if you missed something or you want to share one of our presentations with one of your coworkers, you can simply go to our YouTube site, Zyxel America channel, and find us there. And I'll stick around a minute for questions. Oh, it looks like everybody's bailing. But if there are questions, go ahead and send them in with the question and answer interface. And I